That's the squat. Next is the push-up. So go ahead and join me on the ground. We're going to get on all fours here. Just like I showed in the beginning, we don't want that shoulder pressed out. So a lot of people are in the habit of really pushing away from the ground. And what that does is if I keep my shoulder there, as I go do a push-up, now my shoulder's in a really tough, bad, poorly leveraged position, not being supported by its big muscles. So I really need to get that shoulder back. So let's just work on that first. From all fours, drop your chest to the ground. And then what you're going to do is try and screw your shoulder into the ground through your hands. So shoulder back, screw them in. You should feel these muscles here really fire up. The same way we twisted our feet into the ground, we're twisting our hands into the ground now. So shoulders here, screw my hands. Notice they don't move, but my elbow pits face forward. That's going to be the shoulder position that we're going to really try and maintain. On a push-up, on an overhead press, on a pull-up, doesn't matter what we're doing, we're always going to try and get that shoulder stable and create torque in there to hold it in place every single thing we do. Okay, so now let's get back on all fours. Shoulders back, screw your hands on. Let's get into a push-up plank position now. Butt tight, belly button drawn in, feet together. Okay, if you're going to do a knee push-up, completely fine. Just drop your knees to the ground, but there's no need to bend at the hip. So the butt cheeks are always squeezed no matter what. That way we're still working the same positions. Let's send everything forward as you go all the way down to the ground. You can go ahead and relax on the ground, and relax is kind of in air quotes, because my whole body weight's on the ground, but I don't want to be completely relaxed because shoulders are pulled back, I'm screwing my hands into the floor, butt tight, belly button drawn in. So what I want you to do is look at your forearm, and you should see your elbow be stacked straight over your wrist. You should also see that elbow you're screwing your hands to the floor, so the elbow should be in just a little bit here. So now what I want you to do, if you're doing knees, just leave your knees on the ground. If you're not, doesn't matter. I want you to press up with your back in one piece. Okay, then let's go ahead and do 3 push-ups or knee push-ups. If you're working with us here in the gym, we have bands and we have a lot of ways that we can scale this. Knee push-ups are a good way to scale. If knee push-ups are a little too hard for you, you can also lean up against a wall or a chair and do push-ups like this. It doesn't matter where I put my hands, if they go out like this, if one's here, if I'm doing it against a chair, if I'm doing a dip, doesn't matter. Shoulder back, screw your hands in. What we like to do with our push-ups is we like the hands to be somewhat under our shoulders because it gives us a good mixture of even development of the arms and things that translate into pressing and holding things overhead, pulling from overhead, other things like that. Okay, so we've got the push-up, very similar to the squat. Posture doesn't change, okay? The whole checklist is the exact same, but this time my shoulders are moving. What we want to avoid is as we press out, we don't want to chase it with the shoulders. We want to keep that shoulder back. So let's do it one more time, okay? Get the shoulders in place, screw your hands in the floor, butt tight, belly button drawn in. Send everything forward. So you go down one piece. As you come back up, let's do 3 reps. We're looking for full range of motion, meaning you're going to go all the way down till your chest touches the ground and you press back up. Think of from the tailbone or from your heels to your tailbone to your head, just one straight line, kind of hinging as you do push-ups. Okay, so now we're going to learn, one of my favorite things to teach people is because we get a bunch of weird looks from this. We're learning the kipping push-up. So the kipping push-up is just a method of using momentum and body position to make the push-up easier. And a lot of people give us these weird, crazy eyes when we start teaching them.
He gives me this look.
Stink eye?
Crook eye? Evil eye.
So we'll get into why we're doing this here in a second. But first, let's go ahead and do it, and then we'll talk about the positions we're using here. So let's get back on the ground, and let's get into the bottom of a push-up position. Okay, check in as your elbow straight over your wrist, butt tight, belly button drawn in. What I want you to do is put your knees on the ground, and you're going to leave your hips close to the ground. And we're going to get into an arch position here, but keep in mind my butt is tight and my belly button's drawn in. Now I just want you as hard as you can, shoot your butt up in the air. Watch me before you do it. and then go ahead and give it a shot. Okay, so we're going from this arch position, shooting your butt up in the air. Okay, so that's gonna be the kipping push-up. So let's go ahead and stand up real fast. So why are we doing this? If you grab an imaginary soccer ball and throw it, if we go just arms, there's no power there. That ball's going nowhere. But naturally, this is the cool thing. Everyone tends to do this thing correct. If we arch and throw it, we can feel the power, but the really cool thing is the movement pattern is there for most people. And I don't know if I've ever seen it. I don't want to say never just because I don't know who's on the other end of this thing, but in person, I've never seen someone just go like this, broken, and go. Everybody lengthens and gets tall and tight as they're here to generate that power. So we call this the arch and snap. Arch and snap. So this is the extra layer we're throwing in. We're trying to get really, really, really good at posture in different positions and moving from one position to another position with a bunch of weight, being out of breath, yada, yada, yada. But we're also trying to develop these skills within the context of transferability. So this arch and snap is how we throw a soccer ball. If I rotate it, arch and snap is how I spike a volleyball. It's how I serve in tennis. It's how I throw, arch and snap. It's how I throw a baseball or a football or a softball or whatever it is. So we see in every single sport, everything we do, it doesn't have to be the exact same thing, but if you don't arch and snap in a volleyball spike, you're probably not arching and snapping in a tennis serve, and vice versa. If you are, you're probably good at the other one because you've learned how to generate this power. So what we've got is we've got a kipping push-up that we are using a skill. Okay, so let's get on the ground. Let's try it again. Let's go to the ground. All the way on the ground. Good position here. Screw your hands on the floor. Butt tight, belly button drawn in. Leave your knees on the ground. Arch. Okay, now snap your butt up in the air. Hard. And snap. Good. The better we get at that skill, the easier it's going to transfer into sports. So now what I want you to do is this. Get back in that arch position, belly button drawn in, butt tight. Snap your butt up in the air and try and let your feet follow it. So watch me real fast. So you're going to snap and kind of jump off the ground at the same time. So let's try that a few times. Arch, snap, let your feet follow it off the ground, and let's see if we can get a good arch and snap there. Okay, so now we're going to add in a next piece. We're going to arch and we're going to snap, and during that kind of moment of weightlessness, I'm just going to position my feet back in a squat stance. I'm not going to go into a full squat, but a partial squat. I'm mainly just looking for my feet to get flat on the floor in a squat stance. So if I start from this arch position and then throw my butt up in the air, I can pop back to a squat position. Here I can check in. Is my belly button drawn in? Feet on the floor, screwing it in, yada, yada, yada. So let's go ahead and try that. Okay, arch, snap, into a squat position, then we can stand up. So what are we doing here? We're seeing something that most people might be familiar with. And if we combine a squat and a kipping push-up, we can make something called the burpee. What we see is very consistently when people are coming into the gym, they've done so many burpees and they've done them so wrong. People love to high five. They do 100 burpees. They're out of breath. It was super hard. High five. But they've missed this super big opportunity, not just to keep our joints in a good spot and use the skills of the burpee to develop sport, but muscle development, overuse injuries, yada, yada. There's so much opportunity in the techniques that we're using for the burpee. Okay, so let's piece it together to make a full burpee, and we'll kind of show you that this is just one example, but everything we do, even our most complicated things, are just a combination and a variation of the squat, push-up, and the jump. Once we get really good at these movement patterns, we can apply them over and over again. So, for the burpee, start like we're going to do a squat. So feet just a little bit wider because our hips are going to go low. Setup is the same. Butt tight, belly button drawn in, Kegel. Screw your feet on the floor, ribcage down, stand tall. Shoulders back, balance that head. Squat just a little bit. Let's check in. Belly button drawn in or your feet flat. Cool. Okay, we're going to flop to the bottom of a push-up position. Check in. Butt tight, belly button drawn in. We should be screwing your hands into the floor. Okay. Now create the arch. Butt tight, belly button drawn in. Snap to the squat. And then we're going to jump and clap with our hands behind our ears like that. Why do we do that? This adds in just another layer of exactly what we're talking about here. If you look at a push-up, shoulders back, screw my hand into the ground. If I bend here, if you have front squatted before, this looks exactly like a front squat position. If I lift this up, this puts my hand right here for this jump and clap. Okay? If I have a bar and I'm pressing it, that looks exactly like a press overhead. Or if I'm doing a pull-up and pulling down, this ends up being very, very similar. So what we want to happen is when you're putting dishes away, I want you to draw your belly button in, kegel, squeeze your butt cheeks, yada, yada, yada. I want you to engage that shoulder the right way, create a little bit of rotation as we're putting it up, so we're not working with shoulder impingements and overuse and just nastiness here. But I don't want you to have to think about it. So when we hold ourselves to a higher standard and make every technique we use the movement pattern that we want ourselves to use in the real world, slowly but surely this stuff starts to spill over and it just turns into how you move and you don't have to think about it anymore. In the beginning, you gotta think about it a lot. But the reason we jump and clap here is because that is just like a push-up, and if we're not thinking about it, we tend to see people turn hands out, shoulders dump, and we see a lot of kind of nastiness go on with the burpees. Okay, so let's do one more together with a few pauses, and then you're gonna do two more on your own, and I'll do them with you. Let's take our squat stance, squat a little bit. Okay, we're gonna go to the bottom of a push-up position, arch, snap, jump, clap. Good, so let's do two more. Squat and flop, arch, snap, jump, clap. One more, squat and flop, arch, snap, jump, clap. Cool, so we've got the squat, the kipping push-up, we've made a burpee. So next step is looking at a jumping position, and we're gonna look at a jump and a land.